multiversal travels to the Force, and welcome back to the Archives. I see that your shuttles have officially docked with our archive. Well, today we do something quite special. In the continuation of the Into the Multiverse series, I would like to forewarn that the series is officially going to get much more exhilarating. And this is not a bad thing. The more exhilarating this series gets, the more engaged I hope you guys are. I spend hours and hours on this series, particularly being generated by an AI, with me putting my personal spin on it. All of the plots have been engineered by me, and everything that you are about to listen to is truly how I would hypothesize an alternate timeline, stemming from the possibility, what if Darth Nihilus won? We are about to venture into the Multiverse, Episode 6. Last week, I detailed the fact that in this next episode, we would be speaking about the Chosen One of Fabled Jedi Prophecy. My friends, grab your prophetic books, peer into your knowledge, and let us proceed, as into the tombs of the ancient Dark Lords we now go. Darth Krayt stood at the entrance to the tomb of Marka Ragnos in the Valley of the Dark Lords on Korriban. This planet was steeped in unparalleled malice and dark side energies, slowly beginning to siphon into him. He felt the dark hole that was his heart begin to augment. It was augmenting his already formidable concoction that was the dark side. He stared in awe at the gargantuan statue, adorned in a paraphernalia and various artifacts of Marka Ragnos, seeping dark side energy. Ragnos, who was stated to be the mightiest and strongest of all Dark Lords, had been the only Sith to ever lead them into a golden age of the Sith Empire, the only being. As he dwelled deeper into the tomb, Krayt plowed through his enemies with unfettered ease, using his immense connection to the dark side, as well as his plethora of abilities. Some he employed Force Lightning on, turning them to ash, encasing them in a prison of lightning while they wailed in agony. Others he used the ability of various Sith rituals, turning them into flaming husks, and others he brutalized with his lightsaber, displaying his mastery of Jar-Kai. As he reached the tomb's inner chamber, he found an isle of coins, jewels, various war weapons, staffs, as well as various artifacts radiating and emanating ancient dark side power. The air was thick with the stench of decay and the echoes of ancient battles that had been fought on the Dark Lord's very deathbed. Krayt grinned in malice as he surveyed the crumbling and decaying walls of the tomb, various hieroglyphics and ancient Sith lore etched within it. Various books and scrolls lay scrambled around the tomb of Marka Ragnos. Various steps led up to his crypt, engraved with ancient Sith writings and knowledge. "This is where the true power of the dark side lies," he thought to himself, "in the ancient artifacts and relics of Sith lords who have come before me." He reached out with the Force, sensing the overwhelming power emanating from the artifact by peering into its darker side. He knew that with these relics in possession, he would become unstoppable, and along with the Mer Talisman, he would be the most powerful Sith Lord. He would surpass Nihilus. He would dominate the galaxy, subjugate it to his will. As he walked among the aisles, he came across a particularly powerful artifact. It was the Sith Holocron, the Dark Holocron, said to contain the knowledge and power of the dark side passed through the ages, from the era of the Exiles as well as Karnus Mer. One of Krayt's personal favourites from his in-depth study into the ancient art of Sith healing and immortality. Krayt grasped out and touched the holocron, and as he did, he felt a surge of power course through his body, like he'd been shoved with an electric bolt. He knew this holocron would be an invaluable tool in his quest for ultimate power. He picked it up and examined the intricate carvings on its surface, sensing a miasma of dark-side energy radiating from it. "At last, the power of Marka Ragnos is mine. With this holocron, I will become the strongest and most powerful Sith Lord the galaxy has ever seen. That pretender Nihilus will fall," Krayt whispered to himself. He continued to explore the tomb, marveling at the variety and constellation of ancient weapons and armor that were displayed before him. He could sense the dark energy emanating from them, and knew that they would be an invaluable tool in his ultimate quest for power. He slowly picked up a war sword, concealed within a scepter. He had heard legends of this sword siphoning various nexuses of dark side energy into its very blade. The moment he touched it, he felt a supernova of power ignite within his body. This sword was wielded by one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time. With it, I will crush all who stand in my way. With a sense of satisfaction and malice, Darth Krayt trotted up slowly to the decaying stone tomb of Marka Ragnos. He felt dark-side energy emanating off it. He mused. Even in death, this ancient Sith spirit, this god of the dark side of the Force, leaked and seeped dark-side energy, unlike many beings ever had. Feeling the dark side running so strong, he would have assumed this was the central hub for dark energy in the galaxy, a black hole in the Force, like Nihilus, but reeking of death. He spoke, admiring the architecture and ancient tombs, as well as the stone tablets of Mount Ragnos and his immense power. He slowly and effortlessly used telekinesis to levitate the top of Marka Ragnos' own crypt off of its walls. As he peered into the tomb, Krayt felt great admiration for the past Dark Lord, as well as fear. The gnarled, mummified and aged hands of Ragnos were latching pointlessly to his Sith warblade, which Krayt could feel her drain multiple nexuses of their dark side tendencies. Krayt watched Ragnos' unblinking, gnarled eyes, his mummified, thin layer of grey flesh like a zombie, his thin and pale flesh clinging to his skeletal arms, skeletal fingers capable of subduing the great Terentatek, an ancient being that he had subjugated to guard his tomb, that had been killed millennia prior. Ragnos' silvery locks of wispy and smoke-like silver hair slowly ran in a glimmering river over his shoulder, as well as his tin, crimson gold robes, his various magical Sith amulets and manuscripts, even buried with him to preserve this Dark Lord's power to take his knowledge to the grave. Krayt stared in horror and admiration at Ragnos' lifeless, void-black eyes, like staring into the void of space. He had never felt such reverence from the great Sith Lord who had come before him, and he knew that he had much to learn from Ragnos' power and knowledge. He stood back, placing the top coffin on the back of the long-dead deceased Sith Lord. Marka Ragnos, your power and knowledge will not be forgotten. I will learn from your teachings and make sure your legacy lives on. He felt a sense of connection to Ragnos, knowing that they shared the same goal of ultimate power and domination of the galaxy. He knew that with the knowledge and power of Ragnos at his disposal, he would be able to conquer the galaxy and become the strongest Sith Lord to ever exist. Nihilus would be dethroned, and he would be powerful. Ultimately powerful, and then, once all his uses had been fulfilled, Ragnos would be discarded, a dust mote in the storm, a liability Krayt would have to check. However, in order to do that, Krayt had to commune with him. Not just that, he had to commune with his physical form. Darth Krayt began a complex ritual, with fire bounding across the walls and across his body, licking to the ancient tombs, not harming him, as the dark side power radiated from him. He was a pure black hole in the Force. He felt tremors through it. He sent ripples through the very Force itself. All beings in the galaxy knew that he lived. Ragnos shall live again, he bellowed aloud. The greatest of all Dark Lords will teach me. Krayt began funneling dark-side energy into the tomb, and as it exploded, seeping dark-side power as Ragnos' corpse was levitated into the sky. His mummified fingers loosened slowly on his warblade as his lifeless carcass was levitated into the sky. I am the living Dark Lord, the ultimate test of power. The spirits will obey. He could feel the wind lashing at his side as he began the final stages of his ritual. Dark-side energy, in the form of blazing tendrils of fire, extended from his body like a horde of tentacles. His dark heart, it impaled into Ragnos, his flesh recomposed, the lattices of his skin sewing together like a spider's nest. His eyes became whole and malicious again, a void-black colour. His skin became a void-like charcoal tone. His robes billowed out behind him as the fire of the dark side ignited within his pale, lifeless eyes. Rise, Marka Ragnos, Krayt commanded. Rise and claim your rightful place as Dark Lord of the Sith. As Ragnos rose, his eyes snapped open, his gaze fixed upon Krayt. Darth Krayt, my new apprentice, Ragnos growled, his voice filled with satisfaction and power. You were dead, my master, but I have brought you back to life. You sense why. The power Nihilus commanded has governed this galaxy for 3 millennium. Nihilus must be overthrown, and with our combined might, we may have the ability to do so. Krayt said, his voice filled with pride. I have studied intensely the powers of the dark side to resurrect you, and now we will rule the galaxy together. Yes, Ragnos sneered. The Chosen One is ripe of age. Nihilus will leech him first, and now that he has, yes,
I sense the Lord of Hunger has taken him as his apprentice. This is good. With the Chosen One at Nihilus' command, he will be conflicted, confused. The dark side seeks to corrupt, and we will persuade the Chosen One to be our side.
I have used the powers of the dark side to restore you. We will rule the galaxy together once Nihilus is destroyed, Cray stated, his voice filled with satisfaction. Ragnar stared at Cray, his gaze filled with description.
You brought me back to life, but I sense treachery within you, Darth Crate.
You are the most powerful Sith Lord to ever exist. Nihilus and me together, we will dominate him, Crate said. I wish to learn from you and then discard you. I will ensure your legacy lives on. Together we will conquer the galaxy. The Jedi are extinct. We will become the most powerful Sith Lords to ever exist. Ragnar stared at Crate for a moment, considering his words.
Very well. Together we will conquer the galaxy and rule it with an iron fist. But remember, I am the true Dark Lord. I am the one who will lead us to victory.
Of course, my lord, Crate said, bowing his head in respect, so Ragnar couldn't see the smirk of malice and treachery brimming on his face. Ragnar nodded, his gaze filled with malice as the draping tendrils of his Sith pure-blooded heritage dictated flimbled around.
Good, he said. Now let us begin our conquest. We will show the galaxy the true power of the dark side. Once Nihilus is gone, nothing will stand in our way.
Darth Crate and Marco Ragnar stood in the tomb of Ragnos, musing about the power of Nihilus, the current strongest dark-side entity that has ever existed, outclassing even their unfathomable power, even together. Crate mutters that Ragnos chose well by selecting him from the position of the Sith Ari, and that he will be free of limits. He proceeds to recite the prophecy of the Sith Ari perfectly, referencing back several thousand years to Ajunta Pal, the assumed reincarnation of Typhogem, the left-handed god, who was centered above the pantheon in Sith culture, as well as King Adas, moving that him driving off hundreds of Ricarda single-handedly would be nothing compared to his own power. Suddenly, Ragnar clutched his head in agony just as they had left the tomb. Crate immediately rushed to his master's side. While he did not care for the master, he knew that any being who had the ability to dominate Ragnos was a formidable being that could become a great threat. Crate peered into the Force to see what was wrong with his master. Ragnar collapsed to the floor, unconscious, his robes going dark for even a Sith. As Crate detected another, amoral entity, completely composed of the dark side, an extension of its very will, he diverted his attention from his barely alive master to a Sith spirit, a being encased in blood-red robes, a skeletal face brimming with eyes that could pierce the void of chaos, robes that billowed out behind him, a Sith warblade emanating alchemy and sorcery from its blade, its skeletal and husk-like fingers barely clinging to it, as it levitated towards Crate, muttering aloud,
I have been waiting so long for someone like you.
Crate stood in awe as he faced this being. He felt threatened, but also delighted. Who are you? Crate asked, his voice filled with malice and power. He could sense the dark side emanating and radiating from the being like a nuclear waste site, and knew that it was a powerful and ancient entity, one that predated the dawn of the Ones, the Bedlam spirits, perhaps even Abeloth herself.
I am the Dark Underlords,
the being said, its voice like a rasping whisper.
I am a being of pure dark side energy, a being that has existed for eons. I have been waiting for someone like you, someone who is strong in the dark side and has the potential to become the greatest Sith Lord to ever exist.
Crate felt a sense of excitement and fear as he faced the Dark Underlord. He knew that his being was a powerful entity, one that could potentially aid him in his quest for power, one that could even surpass the might of Ragnar's. He felt the dark side almost composing him, as if it was as old as the Force itself, a being of pure dark side energy. The Underlord had come. What do you want from me? The Dark Underlord levitated around Darth Crate, encircling him in death in the dark side. He displayed a vision of the galaxy in flags, the prophesied chosen one, now only known as the farm boy named Anakin Skywalker on a backwater outer rim planet of Tatooine. The Dark Underlord's dark energy seeped through Crait, and he sensed that if they joined forces, he might be able to combat the ever-increasing threat that Darth Nihilus posed, even if it meant discarding his own master, Ragnos. The Underlord extended his offer of apprenticeship, and Crait inquired as to where the Dark Underlord came from. The Dark Underlord replied,
"The endless void. I came when the Celestials wrenched fire from the stars. I was old then. I emerged from the deity of darkness, the likes of which is now banished by its maker. I combine the mountains of chaos for vengeance, and now I have the chance to enact it, to impart my master's will, to dethrone Nihilus and liberate the galaxy of his tyrannical and egotistical rule, and a quest to satiate his hunger."
Marco Ragnos wearily staggered to his feet, his face contorted with actual fury, pure, unprecedented loathing for this Sith spirit. As the Dark Lord gathered a storm of dark side energy, infused with his power and fury that was wielded for several millennia, Ragnos snarled, but the Underlord calmly stated he should have died. Ragnos' fingers crackled with lightning as the Underlord extended his palm, claiming Ragnos was a relic of the past, a weakling, a mere droplet in the sea of dark-side energy he and Crait would possess. Crait watched in awe as the Underlord diminished Ragnos' storm of dark energy like it was child play. He dominated him, levitating him upwards while Ragnos squirmed in agony. As the Underlord unleashed tendrils of lightning, which Crait commented could obliterate a planet if he has given the chance. Ragnos screamed in agony as he was propelled backwards, flinging himself into the endless abyss of his own crypt. The Dark Lord was now dead. The being that Crait had ventured halfway across the galaxy, all the way from Dagobah where he had faced Grandmaster Yoda in combat, was dead. The being who had guided him to power was gone. Crait stood in shock as he witnessed the power of the Dark Underlord. He couldn't believe that Ragnos, potentially the most powerful Sith he had ever met, had been defeated so easily. He knew the Dark Underlord was a being of immense power, nigh unprecedented, certainly. However, no one could dominate Ragnos that easily. Naga Sadow could cause supernovas, and that was nothing compared to the Underlord. He could aid him in his quest for power. Crait would, however, have to watch his back. The Dark Underlord is told in ancient scrolls, stone tablets, and etchings, as well as engravements, was a being of treachery. If Crait showed any sign of likely betraying him, he would dominate him. "You have proven your power," Crait said, his voice filled with respect. "I accept your offer of apprenticeship. We will conquer the galaxy and dethrone Nihilus." Crait felt darkness dwelling within him. He felt darkness, he felt power, he felt utter death. The Dark Underlord nodded, his skeletal face contorting into a twisted grin that looked like someone had drawn blood across a child's face.
"Together we will be unstoppable,"
he said, his voice a rasping whisper, like an ancient skeletal figure was attempting to commune with the living.
"We will show the galaxy the true power at the dark side. Nothing will stand in our way. I will teach you all that I know, all that I have seen, all that I have experienced throughout the ages. I will show you how to harness the power of the dark side, how to control it, how to use it, to channel it. We will make sure our names will be remembered as the greatest beings in history. The galaxy will tremble at our feet."
With a sense of excitement and determination, Crait and the Underlord set out to journey to conquer the galaxy. They knew nothing could stand in their way. The power of the dark side was with them, and they would become the most powerful Sith Lords to have ever existed. They would make sure their names would be etched in the greatest Sith Lords in history, and that the galaxy would tremble at their feet. As they walked through the tomb of Marco Ragnos, Crait felt the dark side energy coursing through his body. He sensed the power of the Dark Underlord and knew he was in the presence of true greatness, true shadow, true darkness. He was honoured to have been chosen by the Dark Underlord as his apprentice. He knew he would do everything in his power to fulfill his promise of becoming the most powerful Dark Lord to ever have existed. The Dark Underlord, for his part, could sense the potential in Crypt, could sense his ambition and his drive. He knew that Crypt would become a powerful Sith Lord, one that would be feared and respected by all. He knew that Crypt had what it done to dethrone Nihilus and become the true ruler of the galaxy. Together they would be unstoppable. Nothing would stand in their way. The Dark Underlord and Crypt departed the tomb of Marka Ragnos, the sun skimming on the horizon as it sent its golden rays out on their journey to conquer the galaxy. They knew their destiny was to become the most powerful Sith Lords to ever exist. Nothing would stand in their way. And soon, the Underlord's plan would come to fruition, and Crypt would realize it was far bigger than he could ever have anticipated. Well, my acolytes, what did you think of this video? Did you enjoy this one? I love this Into the Multiverse series that I have been generating, written entirely by an AI. I put my own swing on it. I would like to hear your feedback. The views over this series has been astronomical and beyond nearly everything I could comprehend. Farewell, my acolytes. I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, and avoid Sith spirits at all cost.